All right, let's see.
Morning, Rylan. Welcome.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Ryan, if you go over to the chat function, just go to the little bubble, open that chat up real quick, and I'm going to issue out a username and password. So that way you can get into the tenant. So you can go ahead and follow along with us here. Chris, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Sherman. Or
Hey,
Dylan Gallego.
good morning, everybody. All right.
We got two Dylans, huh?
Oh, okay, there we go. I gotta change my rename myself here. So hold on a second. Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and get the share screen up here. We're gonna start here in about 3 minutes after the hour. Think Bonnie, would you mind resending out? There might be a little bit of hangover from the President's Day weekend. If you could just resend out the reminder list to the folks, we'd really appreciate it.
Actually, I already did.
Oh, you did? Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, 1 second. I think we can. Okay.
And rather than Chris, I put your credentials in the chat, so you can go ahead and check those out. Make sure you use an incognito or guest browser. We just don't want to get mixed up with your other credentials. And then once you do that, just give us a GTG, a good to go, and let us know you're okay once you're done.
All right. Okay, and you can see my screen where I have the Azure tenant up. Is that correct?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start here in just a few minutes. See if we can get some more folks in here. All right. Oh, Ryan DeCruz. Hey, Ryan. Good afternoon. Or good morning, depending where you're at. Who knows?
Hey, thank you. It's morning here in California.
Oh, yeah, all right. Fantastic. I'm in California too.
Great.
We're gonna get some rain here in Southern California, which is, gosh, let me just tell you how awesome that is. Like, we don't even know what it is. I mean, there's gonna be crashes. There's gonna be all these people like skidding all over the place. Be like, what the heck is this? Right? But we need it so bad.
Wild West out here.
Sure is.
All right. Okay. Oh,
And
you're on
Ryan-
mute. There you go, Mark.
You need to come to Atlanta. We've got plenty of rain for you.
Stay out of Florida.
It's really green in Atlanta, right? It was really green in Atlanta. Man, it is crazy. All right. Phil, do you want to pull up or you want to do the screen share for the slides? Do you have those?
We do not, no.
Okay. Let's see. All right.
We're just gonna hand it off to Pete and he'll do the intro.
Okay. Pete, do you want to go ahead and get started here? We'll do the intro. We'll can you share your screen? I can stop the share if you want to share your screen.
Alrighty, hold on 1 second, please.
So I think what we're going to do, gang, is this is Pete Benedetti, Director of Strategic Accounts. I think, Dylan, I'll flip over to you to the slides once we kind of walk through a verbal introduction for Unify Cloud. That's all right. So team, everybody, thanks for joining this afternoon's call with Unify Cloud and Carranza Group. So essentially, my name is Pete Benedetti. I'm Director of Strategic Accounts for Unify Cloud. Unify Cloud is a very long-standing partner of Microsoft, roughly 8 or 9 years. And our claim to fame, if you will, is our ability to provide assessments and analytics and optimization for your existing infrastructure or applications. And when you look at our tools, which is what we're going to walk through it's our own IP, and we are the recommended platform within the Microsoft ecosystem and the end users to actually look at infrastructure and applications. The programs and the assessments that we do are extremely accelerated. They take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, depending on your availability. And at the end of this assessment or this overview, for example, we're going to be offering an offer to everybody who's on this call if you'd like to take advantage of our program. So Dylan, I'm going to flip this over to you.
Perfect. Actually, well, I'll take it over
Okay,
from.
sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it over from here. All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. So today, really do appreciate you all coming today, and thanks for hitting that poll. Let me go ahead and share the screen. Okay, perfect. I think I got everything just about up here. And for those who've just come in there, I think we have Ernst and Michelle. We're putting in credentials into the chat window, okay? And this is getting into the hands-on lab portion of this. So my name is Sherman Crancer. I'm your facilitator today. This is actually sponsored by Unify Cloud. And my role today is to walk you through, Azure cost optimization. Is really to walk you through. The theme today is how do we avoid some of the pitfalls, some of the problems, some of the issues with Microsoft Azure, right? We're actually going to be deploying Windows 2019 data center today. Through this session, my role as a facilitator is to have you follow me. So you're gonna be following me. I'm gonna say, okay, go over to the top right, go to the left, click on this, click on that, right? We have 6 different sections that we're gonna be doing today. So at the end of every section, I really need your feedback here. Just give me a good to go, GTG, when you've actually got to that section. What this does is helps me kind of figure out where you are, right? That make sure that I can make sure, my goal is to land the plane with everybody here at the end of it. Now, this session, we also have a bunch of polls, okay? These are the polling. Now, we do not share who it is, okay, that's voting on anything here. So feel free, feel safe, do this. We actually use this to kind of help accentuate some of the ideas that we're doing, but also to kind of show you some of these. I'm going to give you a couple of metrics here in just a second, some stats, and you're going to find that while we do these stats, they are 100% true. They are 100% true, and you're going to find out because I'm going to share, okay, where people are. I'm not sharing who you are, okay? So please, it's just more for edification, right? To kind of do that, right? So this is also what's called a Microsoft Immersion experience, and what this experience is it's a little different. There's 3 ways of learning. One is the death by PowerPoint. Now, I spent 5 years at Microsoft. Inside of Microsoft, and I'm an expert at delivering 165 slides in 30 minutes and expecting you to know it all, right? But we're not doing that. The second way of learning is by watching. Now, a few of you may want to watch today, and that's okay, or you're having a problem with your RDP environment. Now, what we can do, okay, just go ahead and watch, but still give me the good to go, still do the polls. Now, if you're having that type of environment, this is the second time you've come, I'm going to take down your information. I'm going to send you an email at the end of this. We can do a private one for you, okay? For you and your organization. You can bring in 3 or 4 people. We'll be happy to do that, because we really want you to be able to fill the stuff out, okay, to understand that, right? Okay, so the third way of learning is this immersion. It's called the Microsoft Immersion experience, where you learn by doing. We bring you out and we make sure that you're clicking through these different things. Okay, what you're going to leave today with, okay, is a good understanding of the basics, but also an understanding of what to do, what not to do. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of I'm going to show you this thing right here. 1 second, I'm going to bring this over. Okay. This is it's called the Microsoft Azure Immersion Workshops. Now, my organization actually conducts all of these for Microsoft, for the US subsidiary. And these are level 300, 400, AI, analytics, cloud native apps, data modernization, infrastructure migration, .NET modernization. We do all of these. We do about 36 of these. Each one of these are 3.5 hours to 7 hours, right? They're really long. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is I want to give you a sobering stat here. Okay, a sobering stat, which is very interesting. So we ran over 3,000 people through these immersion workshops last year, 3,000 people. Okay. Of them, we asked them how many of those people use what's called pay-as-you-go licensing. Okay. And this is the first part of so pay attention to this. How many of the 3,000 people actually went directly to Microsoft? They put their credit card down and they used it's called pay-as-you-go. Okay. And about 2,200 of them did. The rest of them were on EAs or what's called CSP. Okay. Now, what's very interesting, then I asked this next question. I said, okay, out of the 2,200 people, what percentage of you are using Microsoft reserved instances and the hybrid use benefit? Okay. 91% of them had no idea what I was talking about and said they did not use it. Then I came back and I said, do you realize that you're overpaying Microsoft by about 40% every single month? And I'm telling you, there's like, we gasps, right? Kind of like silent gasps. But this is something that you're going to take away from today. What I'm going to show you today is how not to do that. Okay, is how not to do that. Now, I'm not showing this to do this, but if you want access to come take a look at some of these higher level ones, level 300 and 400, we'd be happy to provide this through Unify Cloud. We'd be happy to do that for you. But I want to talk about that. And the second thing I want to talk about before we get into the lab is this thing called licensing. How do you buy licensing? How do you get licensing, okay, for Microsoft? So there's 3 basic ways to do it, okay? And I'm going to give you the pros and the cons, the pitfalls and the non-pitfalls, right? And the first one is called enterprise agreement, okay? Now, the enterprise agreement is pretty good. It's typically reserved for companies with 700 or more users, okay? It's a corporate agreement with Microsoft. You have to pay for 1 to 3 years, and you have to take on what's called software assurance for all of your on-prem and cloud services. Now, enterprise agreements were designed for on-prem licensing. That's what they were. They were never designed for cloud. But the pros of it is you sign your deal, right? The cons is that you don't sign a deal with Microsoft. You sign a deal with another company called a LAR, which is like Soft Choice or some other really big organization. Okay, and you get a lot of links. They give you links to go do this and go do that. Give you a little bit of guidance. It's fine. Your help support ticket. If you have a problem, you go through general help desk support, which goes to a third world country and then comes back around. It's kind of difficult unless you buy what's called premium support from Microsoft. If that's the case, you pay anywhere between $36,000 up to $1 million a year. Very interesting. The second way so that's one way of licensing. The second way of licensing is the pay-as-you-go model, which I imagine many of you are actually doing today. Okay, and that's basically where you just go directly to Microsoft and you put in your credit card. You got Azure. Awesome. You're up and running. You're doing stuff quickly. You can do it just in a matter of seconds. Really awesome. Couple problems with that, though. Number one problem with that is you're not given any guidance. So remember I talked to you about that reserved instance and hybrid use benefit. Nobody's giving you any guidance on what to do and how to do it. We see mistakes all the time, security mistakes, cost optimization mistakes, all these types of different mistakes all the time. We see it, okay? So you have no guidance, right? The second thing that is very difficult is you're paying just MSRP prices. You're not getting any discount. They're not giving you any discount. They're not alerting to you also that you have a potential problem, right? Potential problem with your licensing, okay? But the third one, and this most importantly, is you don't have the ability, when you have a help problem, you go open up a ticket, but it goes to a third world country, a separate third world country, then it gets over to the US. It may take 4 or 5 days for it to actually get resolved. And that's a problem. Okay. Now, the third way of licensing is called Cloud Solution Provider Licensing, called CSP. And this is actually Microsoft's preferred way. And that's when you talk to a cloud like Unify Cloud. Actually, a company, not a cloud, but a company like Unify Cloud. And instead of giving your credit card directly to Microsoft over the site, you basically contract with Unify. Now, they are a direct provider to Microsoft. Microsoft allows them to resell the licensing, okay? So there's a few benefits to this. Number one, when you buy Azure licensing through them, it's very simple, just spin up at the same time, but you get guidance. First thing is you get guidance on what to do so you don't overspend, okay? You don't oversubscribe. And that's not just for your Azure licensing, but your Office 365 licensing. Very important, right? You don't want to oversubscribe. Number two, if you have a problem, Unify Cloud is a gold Microsoft partner with direct connections direct to the top of the US customer support. So you go from being on the low total to right up top, and you don't have to pay that extra licensing. And the last benefit is you might get a break on MSRP. So in three ways, not only are you going to save money because you're not doing mistakes, but you might even get a break on MSRP. So I like to start these sessions on this because there's a methodical way of going around this whole thing today, okay, that I'm going to be showing you these little pitfalls. Okay, so first and foremost, thanks everybody for giving that first poll. Okay, the second, I have one more poll here. I'm going to go ahead and give this next one. At what stage are you in your cloud journey? I'm very curious because this has changed actually very significantly in the past 6 months or about a year. We had a year ago, we would have about 30% in having the hybrid cloud and about 70% not being migrated there yet at all. And it was very, very interesting. So if we can just get some of you folks to go ahead and do that. Okay, let's see. That'd be great. And for the folks, go ahead and vote on that. Now, for the folks who just joined, we're going to put some, we have credentials in the chat window for you. Okay, so please go to that. Okay, go to the chat window. All right, so very interesting. Okay, now look at this. I'm gonna share. Let's see if we can get one more vote here. Let's see who hasn't voted just yet. We'll see 7 out of 10 have. No problem. Here, let me show you this. Okay, this is actually good. Oh, perfect. Okay, I'm going to share these results. Very interesting, actually, because now look at this. We have it's completely flipped in a year, and that's because of the pandemic, right? Things have changed. We've done this. So a lot of you have probably gone through that. So 6 out of 8, okay, that voted have a hybrid benefit, and 2 have not. So it helps those people that have not say, hey, it's time to let's really figure this out. So you're in good shoes coming to this thing to kind of figure out before. My main goal is to make sure that you save your jobs and your reputation, because something could happen. You could do something wrong in Azure and not do really well with that. All right, so let's do this. Okay. So now let's get into the clicking, because I think that's the important part here. Okay, awesome. That's Michelle Diamond. All right, hi Michelle. Okay, perfect. All right, so can I just get a thumbs up? Everyone can see my screen. Somebody just tell me.
Yep.
Okay, good. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we're in my screen here. Now, your screen should look a little different because we optimized your environment. Now, the way that your screen looks is the way that us pros, when I was working at Microsoft, how we actually configure this portal. So I'm going to show you how to do it so that when you leave this class, this is your pro tip number 1. Okay, so up in the top right-hand corner, okay, and I've got this super cool handy dandy device here. It's called the Spotlight. Okay, hold on. I got to bring it over here. Here's my Spotlight. Okay, so we have info. That's who I am, right? But what I want you to do is click on the gear icon. First and foremost, we're going to click on the gear icon. Now, on the gear icon, we're going to go over to where it says appearance. So I just want you to kind of maybe take a mental note of this. Okay, this is what you're going to do when you get back to your Azure environment. You're going to click on appearance. And then after you click on appearance, okay, we're going to click on docked. So we're going to dock our menu. Okay, we're going to dock our menu. And then we're going to give it a contrast. We want to give it a blue contrast. I'm going to show you just a second why we do this. And then I'm going to go down to apply. Okay, so I'm going to hit apply. Right, so it applies. Now, okay. Now I'm going to tell you something. The reason why your screen now looks like this, okay, and my screen looks like this, is because we want this home area right here changes all the time. It's very like, you know how Microsoft loves to change things? There you go. This is what they're doing. They're changing things. So on the left-hand side, okay, we have, this is all your menu bar to find things quickly. Okay, this is a pro tip. Like, this is how we do it. And then we made a contrast here because we want to have a contrast between our menu bar and our production environment here on the right-hand side, on the white side. So that's what's important, okay, on how we do it, why we do it, okay? So that's just pro tip number one. Just wanted to show you that. Okay, now I want everybody to go back up to the top right-hand corner of their session, and I want you to click on the question mark button, okay? So there's a reason why we do this. People don't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you, I got a lot of secrets here, okay? The first one is, this is where you would open up a help and support ticket, but good luck. Remember, we talked about this takes a week to probably get some help. That's why you want to go with Unified Cloud. But I want you to click on this little link that says View Service Health. Okay, everyone click on that link. Now, the reason we're doing this for you, okay, is this is where Microsoft will raise their hand. This is where they're going to say, sorry, there's a problem with the data center that you're in. Now, luckily today we don't have anything, but if there was an incident, if you look at my screen, right down here in the white area would be a full incident report. Now, why is that important? The reason why I know it's important to you because in the event that for some reason, we've had 2 or 3 small outages, right? And the reason that there's a problem, you're going to have to write a compliance report. If for some odd reason your virtual machine went down because of Microsoft, you got to write something. Well, Microsoft is incredible about writing a great incident report. They will tell you what happened. So you can easily just come here, grab the report, copy, paste it, download it, put it into your own thing. Boom, bing, bang, done. Perfect. You're in good shape. Okay. I hope you like that one. That's a pro tip. Not a lot of people do. If we clicked on health advisories, look, actually, this is actually a good example. Okay. If you clicked on health advisories in the upper middle left area, now you see the summary. This is a good summary. You can download the summary as a PDF if you want, right? Or issue updates. It's actually kind of cool that they do this. So this is an advisory. What are the impacted regions, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So good to know. Just a great thing to click on. All right. Perfect. Okay. Next one I want you to click on upper right-hand corner. And this is going to be the bell button, the bell. Okay. Super important. This is pro tip number 3. So what Microsoft does, these are called notifications. Anytime you deploy anything inside of Microsoft, it goes here and it tells you the status of that deployment. Now in the pros, we use this all the time because sometimes things take 35 minutes to, 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours to provision. We go up here and find out what's going on. And then when it's done, we go right over here and we can go straight to the resource. Very simple, very succinct, very clear how to do it. So that's what's important there. Okay. Now, the next button I want you to click on is 2 to the left of the bell icon, and that's called Cloud Shell. It's a square with the right arrow in it. Please click on that. Now, the reason I'm doing this, we're not going to actually do this, but the reason I'm doing this is I want to show you there's 3 ways to deploy services in Azure. One is through the portal, which we're going to do today, that comes with the wizard that prevents you from creating a Frankenstein. The second one is through the Cloud Shell, PowerShell, or Bash. If you know these command languages, you can do things a lot faster. For example, I deployed 20 resource groups with 20 new users with restrictions and policies in place. And I did it in about 4 minutes going through Cloud Shell. Now, if I did it through PowerShell or through the portal, it would have taken me about 2 hours. I'd have to do it individually, right? So using PowerShell, super fast. But by the way, if you don't know what you're doing, you get a lot of red that says that is not a term. And if you try to read what the heck it is, and if you don't understand the language, good luck. Okay, so you don't want to do that. Okay, so that's what you want to do. So that is what it is. So why don't we go ahead and just we'll exit out of there, and then we're going to exit out of the Cloud Shell, please. So right side, just click on that. Perfect. Okay. Now, the next thing I want us to do, I want everyone to go click into the search bar in the top middle area of your thing. And when you click onto the search bar, I want you to type in 3 letters. AVA, short for availability sets. We type in AVA. Very simple. Now, what's cool about this, okay, is that all you have to do for any type of workflow, you just type in the first few letters and it'll probably bring up some suggestions. So let me show you why I love this tool, this portion of the tool. Number one, we have services. So this thing called services, very interesting. Services is what Microsoft has built. Okay, that's what services are. Now, what marketplace are what are called independent software vendors. They have actually, and Microsoft many years ago decided we're going to make this open source. So a lot of these independent software vendors are making items that make the services go better, quicker, faster, more productive, but they cost money. Okay, so I want you to understand the delineation between services and marketplace. Services is what Microsoft built. Marketplace is what ISV vendors have built, and they usually cost a little bit of money, right? But what I love also about the search window is look below marketplace, it has documentation. So this is typically related, the documentation, to what you're searching for. So let me just go ahead and put availability sets. If I put the whole term in there, now you see on documentation, availability sets overview, how to use an availability set, deploy VMs in an availability set, gives you all of this great info for you, right? It's amazing. It's really kind of cool, right? So that's what I love about the search bar. We're going to use that once or twice today. Okay. So let me back up for just a moment while you're absorbing this. Talk a little bit about Microsoft. Microsoft, and it's, I would say, gosh, 7 years ago when I first got, 8 years ago, before I went to Microsoft, right? I got into Azure, and at that time, 8 years ago, they had 3 things that were available. One was a virtual machine, very simple, data center, right? 2019. Second, no, it was Windows Server. It wasn't even a data center yet, server, right? Then there was a platform as a service, which was just your website. And then there was one software as a service, very small, right? Not a lot in there. Fast forward to today, there's 12 main services that Microsoft provides. Underneath those 12 main workloads, there's 158 secondary workloads. Under the 158 secondary workloads, there's over 860 tertiary workloads. And underneath that, there's over 4,500 quad workloads, quadruple workloads, quintile. I don't know how to say that. Quad workloads, I think, right? Crazy, right? But that's because all these independent software vendors really brought this in. Okay, they're helping. So it's enormous. Now, let me give you a little bit of an understanding of the footprint. Now, Microsoft has 48 data center regions, okay, across the world. Now they have over 180 data centers inside those regions, okay? That's more than Google and AWS combined times 2. Think about that, okay? Holy Moses, it's everywhere, it's huge. Microsoft's coming a little later to the game, but when they're coming to play, okay? So just want to kind of share that footprint idea on there. Okay, so now let's go back to the tutorial. Okay, now what I want you to do, I want you to take your cursor, go all the way to the left. We're going to look at the menu. We're going to look at 4 or 5 buttons on the menu, and then we're going to explain them, and then we're going to get it right into resource groups. Okay, starting into that. And I'm going to call on you guys to kind of tell me what you guys think what a resource group is. Okay, so on the left-hand side, I want you to go to the first button on the top left-hand corner of your portal, says create a resource. Now I'm going to give you a pro tip number 4 today. Go ahead and click on it, create a resource. Pro tip number 4 is that the majority of docs.microsoft.com or any type of thing will say, hey, come to create a resource, and this is where you go first. Now, my pro tip is going to say, don't do that, okay? Somebody in their infinite wisdom decided to take all the services and all the marketplace and crunch them together, and actually it makes it really confusing to find stuff, okay? So instead of using create a resource, there's a better button to go to when you start anything out in Microsoft and in Azure. And what I want you to look at is go 4 down, the 4th one down, and it looks like a hamburger. I want you to click on all services. Boom. Okay. This is where you go. This is pro tip number 4. Whenever you're starting any type of workload, you go here. And the reason why you go in here is because they base it everything out in categories. Look at this. So first and foremost, like today, I'm going to say, we're going to click a couple of quick buttons like virtual machines. We'll go here today. We're going to go to virtual networks today. We're going to click on that today, right? Okay. Now, but look at this in general. Okay. But it's based on categories. If we scroll down in compute, we have virtual machines, but everything inside of compute is right here. But how about networking? Virtual networks. We need, that's a pivotal piece. But with everything inside of networking, if we scroll down, you have storage, web, mobile, containers. Very simple way of finding and navigating through these different things. Okay. Just very simple. Okay. So very cool. Just this is where we go. So scroll back up to the top. Just want to show that to you. Okay. Now, the next one I want to show you is right below the all services on the left-hand side of the menu bar. There's a little green waffle. Let's go ahead and click on the green waffle. Okay. So the way I like to describe this, and I like to paint pictures, by the way, so I'm going to be doing a lot of picture painting today, is this is the toy box that you had when you're 11 years old, that after all the toys that you'd acquired since you were 5 is in a toy box and nothing matches. It doesn't go well, but it does match, but just you don't have, it's really difficult to find. Same thing in Azure. As you can see here, we've got a lot of things in here, right? WVD, Windows Virtual Desktop, Demo Labs. I mean, everything is in here, right? And we got to be really, really careful with this, right? It's hard to navigate. You could, if you did it by resource groups, right? Okay, well, there we go. We can do by resource groups. We could do that. And it looks like we have some stuff that hasn't been deleted. Resource group ACI 19. Okay. But not a place to go. Okay. This is hard to figure out and to find things. Okay. So what I want you to do actually is I want everyone, instead of, but this is kind of good. It's all resources. What I want you to do, everyone, I want us all to click on resource groups. Okay. Now, when you click on resource groups, you're going to realize that you only have one resource group in your bucket. Okay. But for some reason, you notice how I have everybody? Well, I'm the global admin and I have all of my stuff. I can see everybody else's resource group, but you don't. And why is that? Because I only gave you access to one resource group. So let's go ahead and I'm going to pull the group here. Can anybody come to the chat window? You don't have to speak up. Can somebody here give me an idea of what they think a resource group is? Okay. And then, or say, please explain, because I'm going to give you the best explanation in the world. And you're going to be like, huh, oh, okay. So Chris, okay, let's see. Top level collection of different resources that consolidate different types of resources into a single group. Chris, I love that answer. I do. Great job. All right. Anybody else? And oh, by the way, Chris Austin, you get the first coffee of the day. We're going to send you a link to Starbucks for answering. Thank you. And it's a $7 coffee too, because we know that $5 coffee cards don't actually get you a coffee anymore. Infrastructure, computer, storage. So Ernst, that's a good one. I like that. Rylan wants to know how to type that so fast. He's good.
That was for previous answer. I think he was wondering, not for my.
He's a great click and paster. Okay. All right. Do you want me to explain it? I'll give it to you. Ryan, that's a good one. Bucket. Okay. So this is the way to look at it. I'm gonna give you the layperson's terms. Okay. Imagine you're building there's 2 skyscrapers being built right next to each other. Okay. Skyscraper, right? And you notice that the skyscraper, there's all the people, there's the machinery, the cranes, all of the material, right? Electrical, cement, all that stuff. All those things are being used to build the skyscraper, right? And what is the main thing in the build? It's the skyscraper, right? That's the main thing. That's the main thing that we're building, but they're supporting resources, right? Well, what a resource group is basically saying, I'm going to put a fence around each skyscraper, okay? And now why would we want to put a fence around each build site? Let's see if somebody can answer that. Why would we want to do that?
Well, role-based access, like for security, controlling cost, consumption.
Boom, 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 and boom. Ernest, you're getting a coffee too. I'm going to send you a link for that. Okay, great job. 100%. And Ryan, good job. Yeah, it's really, you want to keep them separate, right? Because you could also have somebody from site B walk over to site A and take the stuff, right? Or here's another one. What happens if somebody in site B is a competitor and walks over, if you don't have a fence, walks over to your construction site, calls a cement company and says, hey, send me over 40 trucks of cement. And they're like, well, how would you like to pay for it? And the guy goes, bill me. Click. Then walks over to his site. Now the skyscraper's already been poured. What could, I mean, that's a big problem. Well, that's the same thing that can happen in Azure. And I'll give you a real world scenario. We had a client of ours called me up almost in tears, this guy. He's like, hey, I'm about to lose my job. And I said, what happened? And he goes, well, we didn't limit people's ability to be in certain areas of Azure. And we didn't limit the type of stuff that they could order. And somebody got into our system and created a Bitcoin mining machine and spent $15,000 in 2 days. And they went from having a $700 bill to $15,000 for 1 month. Okay. That's real world stuff. And this is your first thing. This is the first tip I'm going to give you to help save your bacon. Okay. Number one biggest mistake people make when they're provisioning Azure, okay, is they allow everybody on their team to have full access to the portal. Okay. Your first tip today, okay, and this is 100%, this is your first like baseline of security, is you only give people access to a resource group that they're working on. For example, if you have people that are working on a SQL server and you have the SQL server in Azure, you create the SQL server resource group and you only give them access. So when they open up their portal, they have access to that resource group and that's it. Number two thing you put in place is you limit people's ability to provision resources as well as VM sizing. That's the number two. That's the most important one, is VM sizing. Okay, you have to limit people's access to VM sizing. Okay, and this is specifically because I just told you about that $15,000. They didn't limit access. Now, for example, if you look at your screen, what I want you everyone to do now, I want you to go ahead and click into your resource groups. I'm going to show you what we did. Okay. Now, Pete, I'm going to bring you in here in just a moment. Okay. About maybe providing some sort of anecdotal story about maybe who you work with security wise. So I'll just in just a second. So give you a moment to do this, but go into your resource group. I want you to go where it says access control. Okay. Identity access management. Now, role-based access controls, this is exactly what it is. But for example, when you create a resource group, the first thing you do is now you add people. See where it says add? We go to add a role assignment, and we say contributor. We never give people the ownership. You give all your employees contributor. Really important here to understand this. Take these notes, right? And then I would go to select members. Now you're not going to need to do this. You can't do it. I've locked you out. But I select members. It's very simple. I can just create one. I can do select. And then now that member has access to this resource group. Okay. I'm not going to do that here, but I just wanted to show you that. But this is the other thing I want you to do. I want you to scroll down and see where it says policies. I'm going to highlight this just in case you're kind of wondering where I'm at. You're in your resource group. I want you to click on policies. Two policies that you got to put in place right now are not allowed resource types and allowed virtual machine SKU sizes. So there's about 1,000 different virtual machines that can cost you $15,000 a day. Okay. You should never allow anybody to just spin that up if they don't want to. You need to get approval for that. So you only give them access to these tiny amount of machines until they get approval for it. So that's what it is. So Pete, if I'm going to bring you back in, Have you worked with any organizations that you've come in, you realize, oh my gosh, they don't even have the basics of security? And you've
Yeah,
helped them
we
get there?
have. You know, the interesting things is that when an organization goes into Azure, right? So it kind of flows with the whole optimization position, right? So if you think about this, optimization is generally about understanding compliance, where the organization needs to be, what the guardrails, if you will, what that company needs to maintain, which is part of the Unify Cloud Atlas suite, right? So we do that. So if you look at, we've spoken with a number of accounts. We have thousands of customers, but basically we've looked at a number of organizations that have gone into Azure, right? You get you know, everybody wants to go Microsoft Azure. It starts to fly, which is great. And what happens is they go at the pace that, you know, when they're doing their thing, right? It looks like it's a great model, et cetera. And then what happens is they start consuming more Azure cloud spend than they anticipated, right? So what happens is then we get called in and we start to work with the customer, understand what they're trying to achieve. We pretty much have to take a step back, understand from the beginning what you're trying to achieve, what your goals are, and then we sit down and work with the customer in reference to, okay, great, from a security position, who do you want to have access to? When do you start? You know, at what level, when we start to walk through that, et cetera. And they all seem to come together, right? So, you know, this is, you know what they say, right? And everybody, there's a pretty good percentage of folks from the polls that say, you know, we're in Azure, we want to get to Azure. When you start to walk through that, you know, it's not for the faint of heart, right? I mean, you know what you're walking through. There's a lot of stuff to go with it. And as part of the offer that we're coming out with, and I'll hold off on that, but as part of that offer, we can come in and sit down and work with you and take a look at what your organization has and if you have any concerns there. So, but yeah, the answer is it's probably a long-winded yes, but yeah, that's absolutely one of our areas.
Right. Yeah. And you see so many mistakes, right? You see, so this is a big thing. It's crazy, but these are like fundamentals, guys, and gals, fundamentals. We've got to watch this stuff. Cool. Okay, let's get back to it. So fundamental first step in any type of environment that you're going to do, you create a resource group. Okay, so we've already done this for you, right? So then what's the next thing that we would do? So fundamental step next is we need to create a virtual network. Okay, so what I want us to do, go over the top left-hand corner. Remember we said all services, the hamburger button, click on all services, okay? And then scroll over all the way to the right, and there's a first thing that says virtual networks. I want us to go, everyone click on virtual networks. And then what we're going to do here is we're actually going to create a virtual network. Okay, so go ahead and push create. And then we're going to have our second page comes up. Now, this is a good thing. These are called blades. Somebody in their infinite wisdom didn't want to call these pages. They call them blades. So blade 1 was the virtual networks. Blade 2 is the create a virtual network. Now, when we're in these, this is the wizard. So we're going to go from left, which is basics. These are tabs, IP addresses, security, tags, and review and create. We're going to go from left to right. And then on each tab, we're going to go from top to bottom. We're going to fill out these things individually. Okay. Now, one thing we're going to be skipping every time is tags. We're not going to do that today. It'd take another 15 minutes to describe that. We don't have the time for that. So just make sure that we'll just skip over that for the rest of the day. Okay. So the very first thing, basics, we need to create a virtual network, which is basically we need to create a gate into that virtual machine or into that resource group. Okay. So first thing you want to make sure is it says Microsoft Azure is your subscription. And the second one is we're going to go into resource group, right? And we're going to actually sit on that and we're going to scroll down and just go ahead and select your resource group that's already been pre-configured for you.
Only one, so not much to choose from. So
I'm sorry, Ernest?
It's only one, so not much to choose from. So
yeah, you don't have much to choose from. You're right. But and that's the reason why, like I just mentioned, like I only allowed you, right? To that one of them in there. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Now let's give it a name. Okay, so the best way to do it, AVA set. Oh, no, I'm sorry, excuse me. Okay, I'm sorry. Actually, VN-01, virtual network -01 is the best way to do it. Okay. Now, the other thing too says, you see here it says region. You want to make sure the region is very close to your corporate headquarters. And that's for latency, right? Just think about that. It makes sense, right? So, but for this case, just leave it blank. Okay. Next, let's go to IP addresses. So you can click on the top, go to IP addresses. So what's kind of cool here is Microsoft has decided to allow IP addresses. They actually already pre-created them for you to fit perfectly. However, you can actually create your own if you like. I like this because not everybody's really good at IP address making or subnets. But for example, what we're going to do today is we're just going to leave the default, no problem. Default and IPv4, and then the subnet, which gave us 5 more addresses. We're going to leave that alone. Okay. Now we're going to go to security. Okay. So let me click on security. Okay. Now, when I click on security, I want to give you a pro tip here. Okay. Now, please leave everything as disabled. Now, pro tip, be very careful here. DDoS protection standard, that's actually advanced. Okay. Because you already get DDoS protection. Now, if you have a company that has a website that you could be like a hacktivist may want to kind of, do something for it to you, right? Or you have over 100,000 visitors. That's when you would enable the DDoS protection standard. Now, please don't do that here. The reason why you wouldn't do it is, and you got to be careful, this costs anywhere between $4,000 and $7,000 a month. Okay, think about that. That's why I'm saying over 100,000 users, you can afford it, okay? And you need to have it. But right now, everything will leave as disabled, okay? Then we go to tags, click on tags, but we're not doing anything in tags. And then we go over to review and create, click on review and create. Now, when you review and create something in the portal, you're gonna get this thing called validation passed if you did everything right. If you didn't, it'll say validation failed, and there'll be a little red dot somewhere next to one of the tabs, and you go to the tabs and you fix it. So if you got validation passed, then go down to the blue button, bottom middle left, says create. Go ahead and push create. And boom, our initial deployment is deploying. Now, if you've gotten to this page where it says deployment in progress, please come back. This is the end of our first exercise. Come back to the chat window and type in GTG, good to go. All right, Chris is there. All right, I'm there, Chris is there. Let's just get some people. Ernst is there, good job. Ryan, all right, brother. Michelle, good job. Rylan, okay, following along. Thank you, Rylan, appreciate it. Yep. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now we're here, awesome. Okay, so what's the next fundamental step? So we did resource group, we do virtual network. Now we need to put together what's called an availability set, AVA set, okay? So I want everyone to go back up to the search bar this time. We're going to the search bar, very top. We're typing, remember those 3 letters, AVA, Apple, Victor, Apple, Apple, Victor, Apple, AVA. And the first choice we get is availability sets. I want everyone to go ahead and click on availability sets. Okay. Now that we're in availability sets, we want to go to where it says create, just like we did for the last one. Go ahead and push create. Okay. Now we have a new wizard. Awesome, right? So kind of cool. You see the theme kind of repeats itself, right? So we have here, it says basics, advanced, tags, and review and create. Okay, so the basics here are we're going to create the availability set. So the first one is subscription, is Microsoft Azure. Next one is the resource group. So just select your resource group. And then here, we're going to give it a name. It's going to be AVA set-01. I like to use that naming convention. Dylan will put that into the chat window if you're following forward. And then you have West, and then fault domains and update domains. Now, would you guys like me to explain what an availability set is? Just give me a thumbs up or a yes, and I'll give you my picture. I'll give you a picture. I'll paint a picture. Okay, we paint a picture for this. So when you deploy any type of virtual machine, it basically sits on one domain in a data center. Okay, this just sits on one rack. Okay, problem with that is what happens if the power goes out to that rack? Uh-oh, my VM goes down. What happens if Microsoft needs to update the equipment on that rack? Uh-oh, my VM goes down. So what you want to do in availability set is you're basically saying, I'm raising my hand to Microsoft saying, hey, Microsoft, do me a favor. Split it to 2 fault domains. So if there's a power outage on one domain, it sends over to another domain, right? That actually doesn't have power outage, automatically fail over. That's basically what it is, right? Or it says, hey, Microsoft, I know that you update sometimes up to 3 at a time, 3 domains at a time. Would you do me a favor and spread it over to 5 just in case? And Microsoft says, yes, okay, no problem. That's what we're doing here. That's what an availability set is. Now, Microsoft will reward you for doing this by increasing their SLA by 1 9. So if it's 2 9s, it's now 3 9s, okay? Now, if you do an availability zone, which is within the data center region, so it goes from different data centers, you go an additional 9, you get 2 9s. But the main idea here is you don't want to be put in a position where if something happens, a fault or an update, you're down. Okay, does that make sense the way I said that? Give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat window. All right, perfect. Okay, awesome, perfect. All right, so let's finish this out. Now we're just going to go over to advanced, click over to advanced. Okay, click over to tags, go to review and create. It's going to run the final validation. It's pretty simple. Just go straight over there. And then when you're done with review and create, we go push create. Okay, deployment is in progress. Deployment is complete. Awesome, we're good. Okay, so now we've done the resource group, theoretically. We've done the virtual network. Now we've created the availability set. Now, what is the next thing that we have to do? We're going to create the virtual machine. Let's do that, okay? So what I want everyone to do here, I want us to go back to the hamburger button. Remember the hamburger button, upper left-hand corner? We're going to click on that. And we're going to scroll all the way down to the just upper left area. There's a big blue button that says virtual machines. We go ahead and click on that. And then we go to the plus section. Gosh, we have a lot of Phil and Dylan. We got a lot of stuff you guys got to clear out. Okay, go to the create button and go down to virtual machine. Okay, and do a plus. So then the new blade comes up and we have virtual machine. Okay. Now this is where the rubber meets the road, everybody. Okay, this is where we got some really interesting things to talk about. Okay, so left to right, let's talk about this. So subscription, okay, is Microsoft Azure. And remember the resource group, put it into your resource group. Okay. And then we need to give the virtual machine a name. So demo lab VM-01. Okay. Now, where do we want this virtual machine? What region? Well, we want it to US West. Availability options. Okay. So next one is called availability options. Remember, we just created that availability set, right? So the next one down, we're going to do downward. You check on that box. And then go down where it says availability set and click on it. Okay, just in case you're missing what I'm doing, this is where I'm at right now. So you look at my screen, it says availability options and then availability set. Awesome. Okay, so now remember, we created one already, right? So all we have to do, the very next box that opens up, look at that, AVA set -01. That's what you should have. Awesome. Okay. Security type, leave it as standard. But now look at this. It says image. I don't know why Ubuntu came up, but that's a good segue here. Let's go ahead and use the downward chevron. And we're going to actually do Windows Server 2019 Data Center Gen 1. But what's interesting to note is that 52% of all servers in Microsoft Azure are Linux based, believe it or not. Crazy. So let's go ahead and click on Windows Server 2019. Okay. Now the next one is the size, D4S v3. Okay. So let's talk about this. And Pete, I'm gonna bring you back in on here in just a second. Fundamentally, what are we doing? We're fundamentally doing a lift and shift. We're taking a server from our on-prem environment to the cloud. Now, people make mistakes all the time with doing that. A lot of times they don't understand what they're doing. A lot of times we'll get clients that come to us and say, Sherman, I got the server environment that is on the floor right here. It's got X, Y, Z. It's got this much memory, this much RAM, this much this. Give me a price. Now, Pete, that's my question to you, actually. Have you been in a scenario where somebody's come to you like that, like, give me a price on this, and then consequently being like, well, that's too much?
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, if you're asking if we've been asked for by customers to say, hey, is the cost of this in line, out of line, what we should be doing? Yeah, that's really what these assessments are all about, right? If you think about it, it's and frankly, not everything should go to Azure, right? I mean, and that's the key, right? I mean, as a customer, when we're sitting in your chair, I mean, frankly, you don't want to be sold, hey, just go to the cloud, everything's going to be great. That's not the reality. And so when you look at our assessments and what we do, we look at, if you want us to, we don't have to do this, but one of the areas that we can look at is applications, infrastructure, et cetera. But when you're in Azure, the question is, hey, if I want to make an application modernization motion into Azure, should it go or shouldn't it go? And why shouldn't it go? Or why should it go? And cost is always a function of what we're trying to achieve here. I mean, the question isn't whether you're going to cloud or not. The question is, when you go, should you go, and why does it make sense? I mean, that's the net of it, right? We kind of reel all that in, right? This should go, this shouldn't. And obviously we work with you and your teams, but we kind of walk you down that path.
I love that explanation. And what you said in there, I think, is so pertinent, is why you're going. Okay, why you're going. And I give it a real world example here. When you buy a SQL server on-prem, right, you're running that 24 hours a day. And why are you running that 24 hours a day? Because why not? It's on your on-prem. You bought the license. It's there. But if you really looked at the telemetry of that SQL server, you'll know that reconciliation on that SQL server happens 2 to 3 hours a night. And that's when you're burning daylight. The rest of the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if I could just add one other comment. One of the other areas that we've been asked to really drill into is sustainability, right? That is a huge portion from a customer's position, right? How do you, when you work through this, how do you make it from is it sustainable from a financial position, from a green position, et cetera, right? That can come into play. So I just wanted to pull that out.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And kind of, back to that SQL server instance, right? You wouldn't run that in the cloud the same way, because if you're to run SQL 24 hours a day in the cloud, your costs are going to be probably, astronomical. It's never going to make sense. You're going to be like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make financial sense. It's because the majority of people don't understand how to actually and why and what to actually put in the cloud. So in that case, if you have a SQL server, you would use this thing called reserved instance, but you can use a reserved instance for anything. It's basically saying, okay, let me go ahead and actually see on my SQL server, how many hours a day do I really run it? And what you would do is you'd say, okay, I run it for 3 hours a day. So you're like, okay, well, that's 15 hours a week, right? So that's 60 hours a month. That's 720 hours a year. So basically you go to Microsoft and you say, hey, look, I'd like to create a reserved instance for 720 hours. It's on the year. And they're going to give you a massive discount on what you could do if you did it correctly. Not correctly, if you did it the other way, right? Massive discount And then right off the gate, you're paying a significant amount of money less, and you're understanding what to do. So not all applications are going to Azure, and you need to understand that. And that's why you need to do an assessment first. It's really important to understand what you have, what you're actually taking over to Azure. But in the event that you have stuff in Azure, almost any application you can do reserved instance for. If we can do reserved instance for the Windows data center that we're doing right now, it's very interesting. You can do it for server environments or, cognitive services workloads or whatever you're doing. If you know what it is, you can use reserved instance. So I have another poll here. I want to take a little I'm wondering, let's see, how many of you are currently using reserved instance? Now, we don't publish who says what, okay? But I just want to see this edification here. If you could go to the poll here, how many of you are using reserved instance inside of your environment right now? Okay, so we got 4 of the 9. Let's see if we can get a few more votes here. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is interesting. I'm going to end the poll here, but I'm going to share the results. So this is actually a pretty advanced group here because you've actually already seen that. That's awesome. But typically we see an inverse relationship. We see the 90-10 rule on this one. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you, if you look at my screen, it says the size. Now, I purposely put you at this size, D4SV3. You want to make sure that you're hitting that size. That's your starting point for any type of virtual machine. We teach over 400 classes a month, a year, right, for this. And we tell everybody this size. There's a reason why. Is because at this size, at $305 a month, D4SV3, you can access anything inside of Azure. You can deploy anything, and that's your starting point. There's smaller machines that are out there, but you can't always access everything. You can't maybe get into different regions. This is the starting point. And we feel like this is kind of where you would start off with that. Okay. Now let's get over to username. No, please, everyone, let's make the same username. And Dylan's going to put this in the chat window. We're going to put demo user. Okay. And then we're going to give it a password, capital PASSWORD.1 bang bang. Okay. And just repeat that. And this is what we need to RDP. Okay. RDP. Perfect. Okay. So we have that in there. Now, the next thing is inbound support rules. Okay. So we want to put allow only RDP 3389, that port. Okay. We're going to create a network security group here in a little bit. So that's good. Okay. Next is this thing called hybrid use benefit. Would anybody like me to, I'm just going to explain it to you. Okay. So one of the coolest things, let's just look at one thing really quickly. Look at the cost per month, the $305.14. Okay. So a lot of folks don't know this, but Microsoft says, hey, so they raise their hand and said, hey, by the way, do you currently have a license on-prem for Windows 2012 data center? Maybe it's an older license. Do you have that? Did you buy it with software assurance? And you say, yeah, well, I do. Actually, I do. You say, great. Well, let's go ahead and do the checkbox right there. Hit that little checkbox. Okay. Now, when you hit that checkbox, go back up and look at the price on your size of your virtual machine went from $305 to $170 a month. Think about that. 305 to 170. Because Microsoft says, look, if you've already bought the license, well, we don't need to charge you for the license as part of your monthly subscription. So go ahead and check this box. And then, oh, by the way, we'll allow you to download the 2019 data center to go replace your current copy for free. Think about that. Now, think about that in a context that if you are with Amazon right now and you're using Windows 2019 data center in Amazon, you'd have to pay for the license to be in Amazon and also pay for the license to be where on-prem. Really sucks. Double cost. Microsoft says, hey, by the way, this is the biggest way of saving money right away. And if you're not using hybrid use benefit, you're literally out of $1,000 a month, 400 of it, I would take out and I would just throw it in the trash. Because that's what you're doing. Okay. I have another poll here. I'm curious to see how many of your organization are taking advantage of the hybrid use benefit. I'm curious to see if we got the same results here. Very interesting. Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing on this one. So this is very interesting. Okay, so take a look at this. I'm in the poll, but I'm gonna show the results. Now remember, we don't share who says what. Okay, but look at that, right? So about a little less than half of you, right? So we have four out of 5 are not or didn't use that. Just think about that. Right now, you're overpaying by about 49%. Okay, just throwing away the money. And this is what we got to do. We can help you get that rectified. Okay, but this is really important. All right, uncheck that box, please. Okay, it's going to go back up to $305. Oh, Nick. Okay, thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, brother. Really do. Really do. Thanks, bud. Okay, so we're back to 305. Okay, let's go to next disk. We need to add a disk. Okay, so you can scroll back up, hit disks. Okay, and then here, the OS disk comes with your VM, but the data disk doesn't. So we need to actually create and attach a new data disk. So if you're wondering where I'm at, look at my screen. I have the spotlight on there for you. Go ahead and push create and attach a new disk. Now, the beauty of this, when we push the create and attach a new disk, it automatically creates it for you. So all you have to do is push OK. Bottom left-hand corner, just push OK. And then now your data disk is there. Awesome. Sweet. Perfect. Okay. Now, fundamentally, let's get to the next one is networking. Click on networking. Okay. So cool thing here is that because we put the resource group in the very basics, it brought over everything. It brought over our VN01. It brought over our subnet. It's going to create a public IP address right here. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret right now that most of you probably don't know about, but that's my assumption. But in the next one, it says NIC security group. I want you to click on the radio button that says advanced. I'm gonna highlight it with my pointer device. Click on advanced. And the reason why is you want it to create us a network security group. Okay, what is a network security group? This is where we put in inbound and outbound security rules. Really important. Okay. So leave that alone. Okay. Now we're going to skip over management. So you go to management. We're going to skip over advanced. We're going to skip over tags. Go straight over to review and create. Now you're going to get validation passed. Okay. And then when you get that done, I want you to go down to the blue button and push create. And when you have deployment is in progress, please come back to the chat window and give me a good to go, or say, look at that, Chris Dawson's already there, quicker than me. Okay, awesome. Now, if you had a validation failed, let me know because I can take you back. I can do this in my sleep. I can help you out. Ryan, fantastic. Chris is there. Let's see. Or if anybody needs help, raise your hand. It's nothing off of you guys. It's okay. It happens. We all know that in this game. Sometimes things just don't deploy right. Hey, Ernst, are you good, bud? We're just following along.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So deployment is in progress. Okay. So now the next fundamental step that people don't realize, we need to create what's called a recovery services vault. What that is Microsoft says, hey, look, we're going to back you up. No problem. Don't worry about it. We'll back you up if we go down. But if you go down because a bad actor or somebody in your office does something wrong and you don't have a place where your snapshots go, big problem. Okay. So what I want everyone here to do is go up to the search bar and type in four letters, RECO, RECO, RECO. Go to the search bar, type in RECO, and then scroll down where it says Recovery Services Vault. This is a very simple one for us to do. We click on that, and we push create. This is so simple. This one is just resource group, and give it a name and then push review and create. So our resource group is our only resource group, right? Okay. And then the vault name would be RECO-01. Okay. and then you push review and create. It'll review it and then push create. And we are good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. Wait. Boom. Boom. Ah, boom. Okay, done. We made it. All right. Okay, cool. Okay, now we're good. Okay. So now we've done it all pretty much. We have created our virtual machine. So let's go to our virtual machine. Couple ways of going there. You can go to the left-hand side, click on virtual machine, or let's go up to, remember that bell icon that we did? Look where the bell icon, top, upper right-hand side, upper right-hand corner. Click on the bell icon, and the second one down should be deployment succeeded for your create a VM. Once again, I want you to go to the bell icon, scroll down to go to resource where your VM is. Click on that. It'll take us right into our virtual machine. Okay. Now we're in our VM. This is awesome. Okay. So a couple things inside of here. Okay. The first thing that you would do, okay, is you scroll down on the left-hand side under operations. See this right here where my cursor is. It says backup. Now, please do me a favor. Do not enable the backup right now, okay? Because it takes me 14 days to get rid of it. It's a soft delete thing. It's really a pain in the butt. But I tell you, the step is you go to backup. You click on backup. Come on. Okay, I'm going to go to a different place. Hold on. Yes. So Chris, let's do that. So you go over to, you want to type, so we type in RECO at the search bar. Okay. And it says recovery services vaults. Okay. And this is where you would chart, you would RECO. Okay, you can go to create. And then it says subscription is created. I'm just curious as to how it works in our current environment. Oh, okay. So how it would work. As soon as backup comes in, I'll show you here. Hold on. One moment. Okay, got it. I want to go, let's go back to your VM. Okay. And then on the left-hand side inside of your VM, go down to backup under operations. We're going to click on backup. Okay, cool. Now it's coming up. Okay. So I don't know why it's a little slow, but okay. Do not push enable. Please don't. Okay. So you see right here, it says vault, select existing. Okay. So this is the RECO one that we just did, select existing. Now the default policy is right here. Okay, backup frequency daily at 5, instant restore, retention of daily backup. We could create a new policy if we wanted to. That is by the hour, by the day, by the week, by activity. We could do anything you want, and then it would automatically make that snapshot hit every time, and then just put into your environment so that if there's any problem, we just go back to the snapshot, redeploy it, back up on track. Is that what you're looking for, Chris? No, not necessarily Azure Site Recovery. It's a recovery services vault. It's a little bit different. Azure Site Recovery, you can pull directly from a site and recover and put it into a different thing. This is just recovery. This is just your backup, basic backup with the recovery services vault. Azure Site's got like a few more different things to do. Good question though. Okay, awesome. So don't hit enable backup, please. It just causes some problems. Let's go back to our virtual machine. And now we're going to connect to it actually. So up here, it says connect. Go ahead and push connect, please. Go to RDP. And then download the RDP file. This is where you might run into some problems for some of you. Okay, so it's downloaded. Open up the RDP file. It's going to ask for the connect download publisher. Yeah. Then it's going to ask for credentials. Now, remember, this is where you put in demo user and then capital PASSWORD.1 bang bang. Yes, make sure your username, okay, is not your basic credentials. See where it says credential connect to 13.87, right? Because this is part of that RDP. But if it goes to your own personal credentials right now, go to should be another toggle here using another user, okay? And then I'm going to push OK. Now, what I'm going to get is the identity remote cannot be verified. Obviously, it can't. It's brand new. So we said yes. And then what's going to happen is you're going to this side, you're going to start getting logged into your virtual machine. And the first thing that will come up should be the Windows Server Configuration Manager. Let's pull it up. And dun, dun, dun. Comes up with the Windows Configuration Manager. Awesome. I'm going to minimize that. And my personal anxiety is I always wonder if the data disk is installed. So I'll click on the File Explorer and I just click on PC to make sure that I actually did it. Oh, okay, I did it. Okay, we're good. That's pretty much it. But that really is, if you got into this far, who made it this far? I'll put GTG. Chris, good job, brother. John, all right. Ernst, fantastic. Oh, Ryan, yeah, you probably are by the firewall. Good thing though is you got that far, which means that you're right there, right? You're right there, but it just didn't happen. So cool beans. All right, good. Congratulations, everybody. Really appreciate everyone doing really well with this. So Pete, I'm going to bring this back to you here. I think one of the things and is to really talk about how we can help, your organizations with, basically just figuring out what are the problems that you currently have. How can we save you money? I don't want to steal the thunder here. I want to just give this, Pete, do you want to share your screen? Do you have a slide or two or?
I do. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I stopped sharing, so you should be okay.
All right. Give me the green light if you can see this.
Okay, not just yet. Hold on. Is it allowing you to share? Do we
You know
need to
what?
promote him?
Hold on a second.
You might need to switch the host, Sam.
Yeah, I thought I did. Hold on a second. Let's see 1 second here. Share screen. How's that?
You're good, Pete.
Oh, this is awesome. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, great. So let me see if I can, whoops, get rid of this. Maybe. Huh. Can you guys see my full screen or am I looking at the attendee list on the right?
No, we can see, we can see the PowerPoint, not in full motion, but just the PowerPoint with the slides, but we don't see everything else.
Okay, great, thanks. So just from an accolade standpoint, I'm not going to go over this, but when you work with Unify Cloud, and first of all, a huge thanks for everybody for sitting through Kranzer's presentation. If you look at what Sherman walked through, it was just spot on, right? What we see a lot in end users environments today. So basically, Unify Cloud is a thanks for having everybody sit in. We'd like to present this optimization assessment offer to everybody who's on the call. So basically, it's a free cloud environmental snapshot, right? So we're going to look at your environment, make sure that cost, security, governance, optimization, et cetera, things that we talked about are in aligned where they should be, right? And the goal is, of course, to no matter who we speak to, it seems that end users are always in today's world somewhere in the migration process. You either have Azure instances that you're kind of walk through, you're trying to get it going, you're doing an infrastructure assessment, you're looking at applications, you're looking at optimization, perhaps post-migration, a variety of things. And Unify Cloud and our Cloud Atlas suite is really an umbrella that covers all of that. We're not trying to boil the ocean. We're trying to work with you in certain areas that you might have questions on. And so basically how it works is we look at, obviously we schedule a call, sit down with you, have a chat. What are your areas of concern? We run our platform for roughly 30 days. Depending on what you're looking at in the speed, this can be accelerated anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. But generally, depending on what we're looking at, if we take a snapshot of your environment, it might take 30 days. That's probably a good timeline to look at. And then what we do is we help you with pricing over a 90-day license TCO for your organization. And again, this is a very secure environment. We have security documents just to put your CISOs at ease, et cetera. The way to get started on this is if you just go to that link at the bottom and register for the assessment, and we will immediately reach out to you and get your thoughts on that. And so, as a side comment here, this is in Microsoft's second half of their year, which means that, that there are certain times when we can leverage Microsoft to help us with these assessments as well. But this is directly between Unify Cloud and, again, long-standing Microsoft partner, if you will. And that's really the size of it. We would love to work with you. So if you have a chance, go to that link on the screen, and we would really welcome the opportunity to sit down and chat with you.
That's awesome. So, Pete, let me ask you a question. Is some of the times, people, they get, well, anybody, I mean, I don't like to sit in front of a timeshare thing or go to a car dealership. None of us like that. And what I like about Unify Cloud is you don't really ever take those meetings like that, right? So can you maybe just describe what would just an initial brainstorming type of meeting?
Yeah, that's a great point, Sherman. So basically, gang, what we do is a brainstorming session that looks like this. So while you think about Unify Cloud and we offer the whole enchilada, the reality is that when we sit down and speak with an end user, what we're really looking for is to chat with you about where you are in that migration, right? For example, you might be a pretty significant VMware shop, right? This is just something that I'll throw out there. You're a big VMware shop, and perhaps you're looking at some other areas, or you're into Azure, but somebody in leadership would love to say, what, we have this vSphere environment. What would the TCO to take that look like? Just that specific environment look like? Put it in Azure. Or I'm already in Azure. I want to make sure that my governance and compliance, that I'm not missing anything, or that you are missing something, and you'd like to talk with us about that. And frankly, this is obviously this isn't a commit to do anything. A lot of times the discussion is really just kind of look at your position, where you are, and the time frame. Maybe it's not right now, but you'd like to kind of jump into it at some point. And there are several different areas that we can help you with. So that's really, it is a discussion. And we have, obviously, if you see at the bottom corner right-hand side, cybersecurity and compliance. Cybersecurity and cloud security is a wild topic today. So principals in the organization literally reported directly to the Microsoft CISO, and we're at Big Four owning their security practices, et cetera. So we would bring the right SMEs to this call to engage with whatever area you wanted to.
So Pete, Chris Austin asked if we're going to discuss the asset management tool.
You know what? So Chris, so that's actually a great question. So from an asset management position, we have, obviously, we don't have enough time in this call, Chris, but we would absolutely welcome a chat with you about that, because under our umbrella, if you will, when we talk about our platform in this position, we do have the ability to identify from an asset management software motion what you have, what that looks like, et cetera. And because, as you would imagine, that does dive into cost and licensing, right? So yes, we could do that.
And the thing is, on that asset management tool, that's searching for things like reserved instance, right? That's searching for things like the hybrid use benefit. It's looking for things that you can optimize, right? And to maximize. Okay. So yeah, what I'd suggest is, Chris, Pete will reach out to you, or we'll actually send you a follow-up. Now, for everybody here, we're going to send up a follow-up with the recording. So you have that. You're going to see some information just for the folks that actually, the reserved instance and hybrid use benefit, but we'll send you some information on that to help get you up to speed. You're going to get an email from Unify Cloud. Okay. And I think Pete, you might be the one sending it out to the.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. So you'll get it from Pete. So just look out for that. And then if you want me to join the call as well, we support Unify Cloud 100%. Happy to be there, Chris. I'll be there with you guys. If you want to just set up a half hour, happy to do that. And look, the main thing is just, as today, Microsoft doesn't like to talk about the savings. You got to be careful. Holy Moses, you got to be careful with cloud. You got to be careful with a couple of things too. Like in your Azure environment, you can have dev test people that are coming and doing dev tests. What we see a lot is that these dev testers go in, they spin up these machines and they forget about them. They don't turn them down. Or they're using premium disk on a dev test machine. Like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Doing that zombie resources, right? Or security aspects too. Like who has what, who has access to what, who's not using MFA, who's, these are things you got to be careful of. And that's the part, like cloud is great for elasticity because you can always turn something up and down. But also it's dangerous because of the elasticity, because you don't know what's going on. So I think that's really what it does. So anyways, let's see. Do we have somebody with their hand up? Chris, did you have your hand up for something else? No. Okay. All right. Okay. No, we appreciate that, bud. Hey, and everybody, thanks so much for being a part of the session here today. We really do appreciate it. It's a little smaller class today, but we had a lot of people, really, kind of get involved and do this stuff. And we really appreciate that. We actually have a few other classes. Pete's going to send out, along with that, some classes that we have upcoming for them in security and, other Azure stuff that we're going to be doing. Please look out for those, sign up for those, very similar to the way that they're run here today. So Pete, you want to close it out?
Yeah. Hey, just a quick note of thanks for everybody for joining us. Sherman, thanks again for hosting this. As always, you hit it out of the park, and we're really looking for a conversation with you. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out, and I'll be on the lookout for an email from me. But thanks again.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.